Welcome to She's a Full-On Monet, a digital lifestyle magazine for women. Every week, our editor-in-chief, Kelly Castillo, along with Megan Block and special guests, participate in a deep dive discussion about recent articles and topics we have covered. We invite you to become part of our community where everyone's welcome. You can totally sit with us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to She's a Full-On Monet. I'm your host, Kelly, and I have with me Megan.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, how are you?
Good. It's a beautiful spring, like little windy, but I like it. It was hot over the weekend. I'm over that.
So, we spent Sunday around the pool, which was our first pool day of the year, so that's pretty nice.
Wow, nice. And then like the next day, it was like normal spring April weather.
Yeah, but we did get a day of sunbathing, so that's pretty nice.
Yeah. We're all sunburned because our skins are like, what?
Yeah, I did actually get a little burned. Well, today we're going to talk about a form of self-care that I know is highly, sunbathing is also a great form of self-care, but today we're going to talk about journaling, which is something I know I've heard so many people, really kind of prescribe journaling or suggest journaling for people who have anxiety, for people who tend to be, have overwhelming to-do lists, just in general. I guess it's good for everyone. It's something I've never really been able to successfully do. And I admire everyone who does, because I do see the benefits of it. I just struggle. So we're going to talk today about if this is something that you also struggle with. One of the ways that you can make it a little bit more feasible is by using prompts. So I have to be honest. I haven't tried. I haven't tried journaling with prompts, but I think it would help me. And part of the problem with me when I've tried to journal in the past is that I get very into like a Dear Diary conversation where I'm just kind of recounting my day, and it's not anything that's, really that beneficial for my mental health. It's more like I ate this today and I went here today and then I did that. And that might be great for my great grandchildren to read someday, but not terribly helpful for me to work through feelings. I'm not great with feelings, so that's probably why I stick to facts in my journaling.
I struggle too. I have a tendency to be a perfectionist when it comes to how I write. So when it comes to writing anything, it's chore for me. If anything, it's a list of my to-dos, and that's about it. And even that looks very, very a certain way. If I could, I know people sometimes will journal, type it all out.
Yeah.
That to me is definitely more on my line of interest than writing it out. But either way, I tend to, like you said, just kind of recount my day or be too much in my own head where I'm not really just I just feel like what am I doing here, and what's the point, and what am I saying, and who am I talking to versus, these prompts are fantastic. These are fantastic. I never even thought to use them. I know that there's journals that you can use that will give you a topic to kind of go over. But the prompts themselves were, as I was reading this article, was oh, I never even thought to do it like that. And it made me want to try.
Which is pretty funny because when I've been to therapy, shout out to therapy, it's so beneficial. Some of the leading questions that a therapist will ask you are very similar to these types of prompts and make you kind of dig deeper into your thought process about things. And that I do find very helpful. And when I'm working throughout the day, I always have a legal pad and a pen next to me. And I make notes and I, doodle, and I do little things that I find very helpful to my mental clarity as I'm working through my day. But it somehow hasn't extended to, actual journaling. But, my daughter Gabby journals, and she says it's immensely helpful. She journals every day. She does have anxiety, and she finds it extremely helpful to journal about whatever is causing anxiety and whatever thoughts and feelings she's having that day. And, my husband has always journaled his whole life, but his journaling tends to kind of make his anxiety actually worse, if that's possible, because I've read some of his journaling, and his journaling is all what could I have done better today? how did I fall short?
Just like, man,
it's like negative. It's like negative journaling, and
which works for some people. It just seems like this is not the place for that.
No, he found it to be incredibly motivational as he was building.
And
his
he's
career.
highly successful. So whatever he does, I will do, and I will listen.
It's not super positive. So we're gonna be a little bit more positive today in the prompts that we share with you. So let's dig into it. If you have the kind of brain that's kind of on overdrive and you have a hard time breaking things down into smaller pieces, or mentally working your way through problems, sometimes writing it all out can really help. It's like when you're writing a paper and you do the outline ahead of time. It helps you organize your thoughts, and it helps you kind of get to a conclusion place. And so that's kind of the type of journaling that we're going to talk about today, because there are a lot of different kinds of journaling, and we've covered like bullet journaling and art journaling in the past. Those are great, beneficial things too. But today we're talking more about your traditional journaling. So our author for the article, and this is coming out this week, had recommended some prompts that she had either suggested to her by a therapist or in books that she read. And I thought they were all, I thought they were all really helpful. They weren't things that I had heard of before or would have thought of to do on my own, for sure.
No. As I was reading each one, I was like, oh, like it inspired me to want to get back into the idea of journaling. Because I just thought I was just like, I don't know. As you read them back years later, I'm sure it's all interesting, but in the moment, you're just like, you feel so stuck sometimes. I get so envious of people that can just fluidly write and journal, and they have these like, chapters, so to speak, of their life. And I'm like, man, that'll never be me. If anything, I go on Instagram and talk to people on my stories, and I'm like, there's my journal of life. But these prompts really just make you on different ends, like, more negative self-improvement to like more like positive mindset. They're great opportunities to explore, get your mind going so that it gets that muscle kind of worked out a little bit, so that it becomes more of a natural thing if it's not. Because for me, I've tried it and I have anxiety and I really wanted it to work, but I'm like, it's like meditation. I've tried it. I hear it's great. Hear great things. Tried it.
Same. Can't do it.
Hate it. But I'm open to, like, if you can crack that nut open for me and help me like it like you like it, then yeah, I'm all for it, because I want the benefits of journaling and meditation, but I can't get there.
Yeah. So. We've talked about me trying meditation on here in the past. I really have tried. I genuinely did, but it
didn't stick, because you did try it.
I did. I can't, I ended up going with yoga, but I can't quiet my mind like that. It's just not the way my mind works.
Yeah.
But maybe with these prompts, you never know. I could give this another try and use some of these prompts, and I might get somewhere more productive, because me just sitting down with a blank piece of paper feels a little overwhelming to me, and a little kind of like performance anxiety almost. Like,
what do I cover?
What do I write about?
Cover? Because your life is so, there's so much. You have your kids, you have, your career, you have your marriage. There's so many pieces that it's like, if I dove into just one child of one day, that could be like 4 chapters, so
yeah,
I feel a little overwhelmed by the thought.
Even though I'm doing it for myself, sometimes I start writing and then I think it sounds silly. What I'm talking about is silly. And like, I act like someone's going to read it and be judging me.
Right. Or they're going to publish it what is that? Okay, cool. Yeah. So not just me. Well, let's talk about these prompts so that we can at least be some help. I'm sure there's everyone's like this.
Exactly. I think so, probably. Okay. So the first one was a prompt that a therapist had suggested to the author of this article. And the prompt starts with, here is everything wrong in the world. Now, this one really kind of spoke to me, because when I have a problem, I don't journal this. I do it in my brain, but I could easily journal it. When I have a problem that's causing me any kind of anxiety or worry, or is impacting the quality of my life, I always take that problem out to the worst case scenario. And I'll be really silly. I'll go like out to apocalyptic endings. So I'll be like, okay, this is stressing me. What's the worst thing that could happen? And then, okay, that worst thing happens. And then what? Then how can it get worse from there? What's the worst thing that could happen as a result of that other worst thing happening? And I take it all the way out until like I die or something crazy happens, because I get myself comfortable with each bad step along the way. And so I'm already in my head, made myself comfortable with the worst case scenario. So anything less than that feels like a win for me. So say I'm running late to a meeting, I'm sitting in traffic, my brain is going, ugh, you should have left earlier. You knew there was going to be, you probably know, this is the 4 or 5. What were you expecting? Now you're going to be late. And I calm myself down and I ask myself, okay, I'm late for the meeting. What's the worst that could happen? The person who I'm having a meeting with stands up and says, you're 10 minutes late. I'm leaving. I'm not even going to sit here with you. Maybe, probably unlikely, but maybe, right? So, or they don't want to do business with me because I was 10 minutes late. Okay. So I lose that relationship. Then is that the worst thing, or could worse things happen? Worse things could happen. That person could tell everyone they know that I'm flaky, unreliable, 10 minutes late. Then everyone gets a bad impression of me. That's how far I take it.
Wow. I stop at the person leaves.
But I have to get myself comfortable with, because it feels to me when I'm sitting in traffic and my jaw is tight and I'm like, oh my God, I'm late. It feels like this is the worst thing that could happen. So I have to ask myself, really, is it like, how bad could this get? And I take it out to whatever worst case scenario my conclusion is. And I just kind of get comfortable there. And I'm like, okay, so everybody hates me because I'm 10 minutes late.
Honestly, I started doing that years ago out of like survival mode, because I was freaking myself out over honestly things that maybe I could have controlled, but we're past that point, you know? So I do it in my head. I'm like, what's the worst possible thing that could happen? It happens a lot in traffic. And when I realize that it's like, I'm not going to physically die or be put in jail or be like tortured in front of the crowds, like, then I realized that like, I faced all of the possibilities. So I'm going to be okay. And once you do that, it's literally because like, if I didn't do that, then I'm stressing myself out and causing myself to lose like probably years of my life through stress.
Yeah,
so I had to figure out a way to be my own friend in this scenario, because it's like, yeah, I can't control it. Could I have left 5 minutes early? Probably. But now we're but
I didn't. Yeah,
right?
I didn't. So that is what it is.
It's
late, and usually the list of the worst case things that could happen is shorter than you expected it to be. Mm-hmm. It's not as serious as you expected it to be. Like I did this thing when we having people over to our house I keep a very clean, organized house as a rule, because I'm affected by my environment. Not everybody is. So do what works for you. But as soon as I know people are coming over, I go into like panic cleaning mode. And I have to stop myself, because I'll get worked up to the point where I won't enjoy the evening that we have planned, because I'll be so stressed out about like the 3 crumbs on the counter or whatever it is. Like, people will be walking in the door and I'll look around and I'll see that I forgot one thing, that I didn't do one thing. I didn't light the candle, and I didn't,
it's frustrating though.
And then, I know it's so frustrating. So I tell myself, okay, oh my God, what's the worst thing that can happen? They're going to walk in the front door and go, it doesn't smell like this candle in here, I'm going to leave. And then turn around. No, probably not.
We realize how silly we're being 99% of our time, but it's just what our brain goes into. That's why that movie Inside Out is so funny, because it's like, there's fear and there's disgust. You're like, fear takes over and it's like unrealistic scenarios, but that's human. That's a human thing to do. But it's very therapeutic if you work through each scenario as it could be at apparently the most possible craziest realm it could be, and work through them, because then you're kind of fighting each demon, each battle mentally as you prepare. So you just feel less like bombarded or like, taken back by the shock of it,
Yeah. And then, sometimes in the course of mentally working through that, I realized that the worst case scenario is actually a better outcome for me than the stress that the situation is causing. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, like I'll have a girlfriend of mine, and every time I meet her, I get anxiety beforehand, because I know sometimes the conversations are difficult, or she makes me feel weird, or whatever it is. The social interaction with that one person just rubs me the wrong way and is weird. So when I work it out, okay, she's going to see that I'm uncomfortable and she's not going to want to be my friend anymore. Maybe that's the solution. Maybe this is a friendship that isn't meant to be, because
maybe you're
it's
forcing
causing
something that shouldn't be.
Right. It's causing me so much stress and anxiety maybe I embrace that worst case scenario and that solves the problem for me. So sometimes you actually work yourself into a solution. And that's okay. Like that, you have to kind of go where it leads you when you're doing this kind of mental work. But this is an important one for me, even though I don't write it down. I do talk myself through it for sure. The second one is kind of a manifestation tool. And I think this is really cool, where you just start with I am, and then you add the words after that kind of fit with your goals and your idea of who you want to be and where you're going on your path. So that is something that you can read back as, you know, kind of like a manifestation practice of, you know, I would love to be one of those people who has more consistency in her routine, especially with things that are, you know, personal to me. Like I show up all the time for everyone else, and I don't show up for myself in the ways that I wish I would, just because I run out of time. I just have too many people in my immediate circle that need something every single day of my life. So, you know, if I wrote, I am here for myself, or I am focused on my self-care,
I am
or
valuable too.
I am valuable. I am worth the time and
worthy.
effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would probably be very helpful for me to not just write down, but read back over again. And say even out loud to myself, because it's not that I don't think I'm worth it. I just feel like, I don't know, I'm always pushed down to the bottom of the list. And yeah, I could definitely work on that.
It's frustrating. It's hard. It's something I'm sure we all struggle with, especially parents, especially mothers, because that mom guilt be crazy. You know, it's like even that spare small smidgen of time that we do have, we always tend to find something to fill it that isn't filling us, you know?
Yeah.
But,
and I mean, my kids are adults now, and it's as much or worse than it was. Not the day-to-day busyness of like driving them to soccer practices and making dinner, not that, but the mental tasks of just, you know, it's really important to me that they can count on me, and that when they call me, that I can be present in that conversation with them and be their person that they need to, whether they need to just like trauma dump on me, or whether they need to ask for advice, or whatever it is. Now that they're adults and they're learning how to navigate the adult world, there's a lot of stuff that comes along with that, right? There's like relationship issues and friendship issues and work issues and time management, and
young adulthood is crazy.
It'd be crazy out there.
It's crazy because you're still a child at heart, but like you're expected to know and figure out so much right away. Young adulthood is crazy.
They have so much pressure on them now. And so for me to be able to, when they call, shift into mom mode and be present and help them work through the thought process of these, like solve their own problems by help them solve their own problems by walking them through this stuff, is really important to me. And I'm very happy that I can do that for them. But sometimes at the end of the day, I realize I haven't left them. Sometimes I have the time and I don't have the emotional energy left to show up for myself. So that's something I'm working on. And that's how I would use this prompt of I am, but it could be anything. It could be like, I am, I am a healthy person. I am a person who exercises every day. I am a, confident speaker. Maybe you have, I think a lot of people have problems speaking in public. Maybe that's part of your job and you want to work on it. I mean, it could be anything. It could honestly be anything. If you really look at who you are today versus like your ideal version of yourself, and think about how you would word that, where you are that person. Because I know, like for myself, if there's something about myself I want to change, I imagine the version of myself that is that and does that and lives that lifestyle, and then I just embody that person. Like it's almost like wearing that person as a costume.
Yeah.
Until it's real. You pretend until it's real, because that's the only way.
There is a definite difference between how I run my day and how like Elon Musk runs his day. So if I wanted to be successful, I must do certain things that say a Tony Robbins would do versus what I'm doing. So you emulate their patterns, and it will certainly help you on that goal that you have. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. It's like for the short period of time that that's becoming your new habit and stuff, you kind of play a role that you're that person. And then you will absorb
it till you make it, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
So the next one is it's a self-reflection tool, and it's also like a wonderful way to kind of express love for people in your life, in your own mind. So the prompt is, these are the people who make me feel the most myself. I love this. I think that's so sweet. And we all know who those people are, but sometimes the act of like writing them down and maybe even a few words of appreciation for why that person is so special to you and makes you feel so good about yourself would be a really sweet thing. And you know, those days that you're having sometimes where you do feel kind of alone and kind of isolated, or, you know, maybe you feel like you're not the most lovable person some days, that would be a great time to revisit that section of your journal. Kind of be reminded about how many people love you and care about you and show up for you, because I think we all need a reminding of that every now and then.
We do. Yeah. I think that's a great, I love this one, because it's anytime where you're reflecting from a place of, you know, gratitude and happiness and like warm and happy thoughts is always nice, you know, versus what can I do to improve myself, or what, you know, what burdens do I need to unload from the day? This is like a different take on it.
I think, you know, I've been told, my dad used to tell me this a lot. Like if I was upset with someone and angry, rather than say the words I was thinking to that person in anger, write them out a letter and say whatever you need to get off of your chest, but don't send it. You know, you can burn it, you can put it away, you can whatever you need to do with it, but writing it down as if you were going to give it to them is a wonderful thing to do that kind of really lets you out, like an outlet for the anger that you have. But imagine that, you know, in a positive note, just writing a note to someone or a letter to someone or an explanation of the relationship in your journal, where you tell somebody all the wonderful things and the great things and loving things about that person, the things you love about them that make them special to you. Even if you never show them that or send it, the energy, that the positive energy there is just really, I think, really beneficial. I could totally see how that would help.
Yep. Yeah. You're putting good mental energy into the world, you know?
And looking back at that, I mean, I know for myself, if I did that, if I made a list of the people who make me feel the most myself, it would be a wonderful visual reminder of how many people, you know, really do have that special place in my life, and how blessed I am to have such a big circle of people who care about me and who I care about.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So the next prompt is, one reason I got out of bed today. And this is like what the author calls a joy list of all the reasons that you get out of bed every day. So how you found your joy and your why. You know, I think one of the most, you know, we all know what we need to do each day. And most of us know how to do it, but the why is another aspect that's just as important, that sometimes gets kind of left behind. So the why of what we're doing, we all work so hard and we do so much each day that, you know, it's important to stop every now and then and ask ourselves why we're doing what we are doing, because it can be very depleting. We need to remind ourselves of the purpose of what we're doing.
Really. I mean, honestly, because like at some point you're just gonna go like, what am I like? Why am like that's not why we're here, you know?
Yeah.
So always make sure that you do like a check-in with yourself and make sure that it's, you know, you're in alignment before you just feel like a worker drone when you wake up in the morning that's just meant to serve others and you know. Yeah. I love that one. That's the one I tend to do, and it all kind of came from do you remember that like daily like journal? What was it called? Anyway,
I don't remember.
Wish I knew the name. Oh man,
the day designer.
We need to link, because it's like the way, I know there's a lot of day planners out there and there's a lot of great ones, but this one I love because every single page there was like a small little section of listing like your 3 things you're thankful for. And there wasn't a lot of space for like an elaborate response. It was just, but it made your brain go to, what 3 things am I thankful for? And you feel silly putting like water, air. Like it makes you think. And if you have to do it every day, it almost makes you think about what else that I not think of that I can be thankful for. But I love any time where you can list out things that make you realize how lucky we are, with where your position is, because you could be having a rough day, a rough week. But if you start the day like that, I don't know if we talked about when to journal, but I know that a lot of people do it in the beginning of the day when their mind is fresh and they're trying to get in a good space, right? When they wake up. I think that that's a great time to do it. I can't do it at night because my mind is so tired and I feel like I'm just like going through the motions rather than really
It'll
being
feel
there.
like one more chore to do at the end of the day. But I mean, I make a point of getting up early enough that I can have my coffee in quiet space in the morning and wake up kind of slow. So that would be a great time for journaling, because it's a good time for me to be reflecting on things. I'm relatively clear-headed and my day hasn't gotten overwhelming yet where it feels like, now I have to journal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this prompt, the reasons that you get out of bed, is also a great place to list the things that you're looking forward to in your life, and to kind of also remind yourself of the big picture, because especially as moms, when we're raising kids, especially when they're little, the days are so long, right? And it feels like so much repetitiveness. And why did I get out of bed? Because my baby was screaming. Of course, that's what's my alarm clock every morning. But the bigger picture of getting out of bed so that you can, nurture these tiny humans, and the end result that you're hoping for, is such a nice thing to remind yourself of, because the actual day-to-dayness of it is extremely taxing, as we all know.
Yeah, it's a mindset check. It's like it's the same scenario both ways, but it's how you look at it that can really, how are you taking it, because it's the same thing.
And your perspective is really what determines how comfortable or happy you are in the moment, because it's all about how you look at things. Yeah. Okay, so the next one is something that, this is a great one to ask yourself on every day, because the answer can change every single day. How can I best love myself today? This ties into me saying I needed to work on my self-care and self-attention a little bit.
I just think you need to pick, like, hey, if you haven't done it by 2 p.m., you got to check in with yourself, because if you're waiting until the end of the day to have time and energy to do something for you, it's never going to happen.
That's very true.
Like you just got, I don't know what that is. Or like plan it out the day before and being like, tomorrow I don't even know what your thing is, but you need a thing and you need to do it well before 8 p.m. It's crazy.
I really do. And this is one of I know that I need to do it, and I do things for my health. Like I make sure I get enough sleep. I make sure, that I have a fairly balanced diet. I make sure that I move every day, but showing up for my future self in a mental health capacity is something I could definitely work on, and I think is super important. And
I think you should just do this prompt for like a solid week and see a difference in your life, because honestly, it'll force you to think about it.
Yeah, honestly, this is the one that I think could probably help me the most. I need to definitely set up a way to kind of love myself each day that isn't like, every day can't be a piece of chocolate eaten in the pantry. It has to be like something a little bit more specific.
Oh my gosh. I just remind myself that if I do a little, even if it's just like walking through Target by myself for 20 minutes and just looking in the areas without kids showing me things and be like, mom, like that, to me, that just like it recharges me for the rest of the day. And I'm a better employee. I'm a better mom. I'm a better wife. And I remind myself every time that I like feel like, oh, do I really need to yes, you need to do that. Girl, you go do that. Like whatever. And even if it's like working out or walking on the beach or whatever that thing is, like, and if I don't do it by a certain time of the day, I just know it's just, let's be real, it's not gonna happen. So if I prompted myself in the morning to write like, how can I treat yourself today? I mean, like, it would be such a great way to, that's the most important thing. So please do that. Yeah. Do that and tell us how it went. Because I know you're not doing anything for yourself. And I know
I'm fully admitting it. I'm so
I know you're not. And it's like, for some people, it's like, no, I bought myself Starbucks this morning. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about like rushing and getting a coffee on your way between parent meetings. It's like, really though, like the things you've enjoyed that you wanted to do forever that are just sitting there that you want to do. The other day for my birthday, I watercolor painted and listened to the ocean.
That sounds
That was
lovely, actually.
That was life changing. It was like I could have worked out, I could have caught up on stuff, but I was like, no, I literally took some watercolor, a little watercolor set and a little canvas paint and a blanket, and I didn't bring anything to listen to. I just listened to the waves, and I don't paint. I don't paint. Let's start off by saying I'm not a painter, but I didn't care. It was just the process of it. And like somebody came up to me and she's like, your goals. And I'm like, yeah, like exactly. She didn't know it was my birthday. It's not a thing I do every day, but I could be doing that every day. Like, who knows? But it's like, yeah, I want to take more time for myself to do things that it's like, I look at other people and go, dang, I wish I could do that. Why can't you do that? So
exactly.
Take more time for yourself and do the ridiculous things like watercolor paint by the flipping ocean. Cause it makes your soul happy and it fills that cup.
Yeah, I had lunch yesterday with a friend who has been asking me to have lunch forever, and I've put it off and I've put it off, and I finally was like, I've got to just schedule this lunch with her. I mean, she probably thinks I just don't like her at this point.
Yeah, it gets to a point where it's like socially awkward.
Yeah, because if you haven't been in my home and seen what goes on a daily basis, you would never believe the busyness and craziness.
No, even when you tell somebody, they always think it's something about them. And
they were like, oh yeah, we're all busy. I'm like, no.
no.
You don't understand. So I made myself, and the only reason I went is because I had told her I would meet her there. And I was like, okay, I've got to go. It's right in the smack in the middle of the day. But sitting there and having a leisurely lunch on Tuesday at noon was so nice. I mean, I was checking my phone and I was like, there's a million things I should be doing, but just taking that break in the middle of the day and was so nice, because I don't have a 9-to-5 job, and I work from home, and I do a lot of different businesses and stuff, and a lot of stuff that of our own, but there's not a singular focus to it, and it's not a set schedule. So
yeah, you don't get like Saturdays off. Like other people have a set schedule. I feel this.
Yeah. I work every day of the week, and at least Monday through Friday are like 12-hour days. The weekends tend to be a little bit lighter because I force myself to take time off.
Forced yourself. I was just going to say, like, you tell your assistant, like, do not stop me, me. Cause you will keep working if you don't put actual boundaries up. Thank God. You did that.
Sunday, when we had our pool day, I told Alex, I was like, we're going to go to the hotel and use the hotel pool, because if I stay here, I won't do this. I'll go back to my desk. I'm going to check out of my house and have someone's going to bring me like chips and guac by the pool. And that's what I did, because I needed that separation.
See, you're learning. It's a practice, and you just keep doing this, because we've talked about on past podcasts, you have this idea of wanting a group of friends when you're older. Like, how can we ever cultivate these relationships
if I don't take the time
for them? But if you're not even taking time for yourself, then how on earth can anyone expect you to be taking time for them as well? So this is a good practice, and it's kind of like pulling teeth at the beginning, because you're just like you're itching, right? That you're like, I gotta be at this and that. But you got to it's like you're like an anxious toddler. You have to force yourself to sit with it, right? And realize that and it's good, because it'll cause you to make that next small thing that'll cause to make the next small thing to where it will become a non-negotiable thing.
And I mean, here's the thing. I had that lunch yesterday. And no, I wasn't as productive as I normally am, but my whole world didn't collapse either. Like everything.
No one died. Okay. Everything went well.
No one died. Everything kind of got rolled over to today and tomorrow, and that's okay. And I'll get it done. It's not a big deal. I carved that time out, and the world didn't implode.
You're also teaching the world what pace to rely on you at. If you're always available and you're 24/7, you're always pushing yourself off, then people are going to expect that type of pace from you all the time. You need to set yourself boundaries, because it's not okay to be available 24/7. Like no one's job, it should be available 24/7.
I'm working on it. I really am. So
talking to you, I'm talking to me, I'm talking to everyone.
I know.
Mainly you.
The next prompt is, what feeds my soul and why? Now, this ties into what we're just talking about, because, I work on this and I carve time out for myself, for my self-care and my mental health. How do I use that time? What is going to recharge my batteries? What's going to feed my soul? What's going to speak to me on a spiritual level or unlock my joy, right? that's different for everybody. Nobody can tell you what it is. You just have to try a bunch of different things and figure it out. I, for one, love reading. I love a good book because it's like escapism for me. And I can, it's like watching a movie in my brain, right? So I can open a book and check out of my life and into someone else's life for an hour or two. And that helps me tremendously. Bonus if I'm reading it in a bubble bath. But also, you know, I do kind of add to my to-do list with a lot of the charitable work that I do, but that genuinely feeds my soul and makes me feel like everything I'm doing isn't, you know, coming from a selfish place, or it also makes me feel a little bit less guilty for all the privileges that I know that I have and I know that my family has. And so just being able to kind of give back a little bit, it doesn't balance things out by any means, but it does make me feel better about it, because, you know, that's a whole other issue. But yeah, so find what feeds your soul. It could be painting, as Megan just talked about. It could be making music. It could be singing in the choir. It could
honestly be
writing.
taking a nap too. If you're constantly in a go, don't feel like you have to find some extra thing. If it's just simply taking the time to just enjoy listening to the birds chirp at the park. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's I heard birds chirping the other day, and I was like, it was like out of a Disney movie. They were chirping like crazy. And I was like, what's the last time I listened to like birds chirp?
Yeah, it's so pretty.
The most simple things in life are honestly the best ways to spend this time. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It can simply just be getting some vitamin D outside and spending 20 minutes outside and recharging your soul. But yeah, if you want to start something, got to carve out the
going
time.
to the gym. It could be, you know, walking barefoot in the grass at the park and just feeling nature. It could be hiking, like whatever it is, you've got to figure it out for yourself, because it's such an individual thing.
But there's something about writing it down and journaling that makes it manifest into action, right? It's like saying it, thinking it's one thing, but putting it out there for you to read out loud and come to terms with and see and be honest with yourself about is like a whole nother level.
Yeah. And then when you're writing this, if this is a block for you, if you have a block here where you really can't figure out what feeds your soul, what brings you joy, start out with that prompt and some of the things that you might have enjoyed doing in the past, and then why or why not you don't enjoy doing them, or you do enjoy doing them still. Things you did as a kid, a sport you played, an extracurricular that you had that was special for you, or something you used to do with your parents or grandparents that was fun. And then, you know, maybe expand it to things that you see your friends and family doing that seem to bring them joy, and whether or not you feel like that would work for you, or something related might be a better fit. You kind of just have to branch it out like a tree, you know, and you'll get there eventually, especially if you try a little of this and a little bit of that. It's okay to be a very clumsy student of whatever interests you. So maybe you've watched ballroom dancing on television and thought that looks so freaking fun, but you don't know anybody that ballroom dances. They have so many classes for that at every community center, at Arthur Murray, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's okay to go and feel silly and know you're going to make a fool of yourself.
Realize that it's not for you either. I tried dancing classes and I thought that was going to be my thing, and then I tried it, and I know it takes more than one lesson, but I was like, oh no, not my thing. Like very quickly, not my thing. But make a journal about that, trying to figure out what my thing is. Today I tried this, not my thing. You know, figure it out. But simply just, we all know in our gut that there's this lack of balance that we're struggling with. And sometimes it can just simply be the lack of spending time taking care of yourself. And when you journal and you write that down, and you want to really spend time to get you familiar with you again, and, you know, in love with yourself again, that would be a great chunk of time during your journaling experience to just, you know, mix some of these prompts up until you find you again, you know?
Yeah. And I'm sure that there are a lot of other resources with a lot more prompts. We just shared some of the ones that have worked, you know, for our writer. She's also linking like a lot of different journaling supplies that she's found helpful. And I know for me, as I said, I'm affected by my environment. So when I'm doing something like journaling, the way it would work best for me is if I had a beautiful journal and colored pens, and that made it fun for me, rather than, you know, my yellow legal pad, which I use all day, and a regular, you know, Bic gel pen or whatever. I would want something really pretty. That would be motivating for me, but not everyone is that way. So find what works for you, for sure. And then, okay, we have one more prompt. Where am I holding the most attention today? This one I love because this is something that I learned in therapy, was to check in with my body. And it is almost like a mini meditation where you just sit quietly. I have to do it with my eyes closed because I am easily distracted. And then go just like either from your head down to your toes or vice versa. And just check in with all the little areas of your body. And you'll notice that you have tension in places you didn't realize you had tension.
Oh yeah. Like you're like this and your jaw's clenched.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, what is wrong with me?
That's the bad one for me.
Stressed out.
I clench my jaw. I don't even realize I'm doing it half the time. I hold my jaw in a tight position. But when I take the time to do that, I recognize I'm doing it and I can release that tension. Because if I don't, my jaw will I get like a TMJ.
Yeah.
But
do you like grind your teeth at night or tense your jaw at night? Do you ever
I do tense my jaw sometimes at night, but I don't grind my teeth.
Okay, good. I'm like, cause I have a tense jaw too. And I wonder, like, sometimes I'm like, am I doing crazy stuff in my sleep I'm unaware of? Cause like, if this is me awake, oh man, you know?
Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, if I'm really emotionally overloaded, I'll be hunched.
Yes.
I'm literally like hunched over. Yeah, it's so bad. So if you can check in with every like inch of your body and pay attention to what your body's trying to tell you, it's a wonderful way of kind of seeing that you may be more stressed and tense than you even realized.
It sounds like a few of these prompts you don't even need to write them out, but if you just practice the methods, like this one we just spoke on and the one where the worst case scenario, mapping it out, you can mentally journal these things and immediately cause yourself relief. Because as you were talking about the tension one, I realized there was tension in my jaw, and just like thinking about it released the tension and caused me to stress.
Yeah. Now,
less.
if you're having like health issues or you're concerned about something that's physically going on with you, if you were to do this exercise and then write down what your results were on a regular basis and look at it like on a more longer term, and you might realize that you are repeatedly tensing your jaw like more days of the week than you're not, or
it's around the same time of the month or something like that. Maybe you got something stressful going on.
I found it really helpful in different periods of my life to write down every morning how I slept the night before and why I thought I might have slept badly if I did. And then I was able to see some correlations between like foods I was eating or what time I was eating and how I slept, or stressors throughout the day. And that helped me kind of get a control over that. And my sleep is better now than it pretty much ever has been. But I know now, what can cause, what I know ahead of time that something will probably be throwing off my sleep.
Right. Like, tomorrow's going to be interesting.
But I can resolve that. I can go do a little bit of restorative yoga before sleep. I can take a hot bath with like lavender and salts in it. I can do something that kind of offsets it a little bit. So checking in with your body, checking in with how you're feeling every day is something that you can see patterns that maybe you wouldn't have been able to see if you didn't record that somewhere.
Yep. Just be aware, self-awareness, right? That's all it is.
Yeah.
Well, this was cool. I learned a lot. I did
too. And I'm sure there's a lot of other kind of journaling prompts and topics that people have found really helpful. So if you guys want to share that with us, I would love to hear about it, since this is something that I'm not practicing right now and might be something I want to try in the future. So you can definitely go to our Facebook page and go to Facebook, search She's a Full-On Monet. You'll see our page there, and it has an attached discussion group. So if you want to share with everyone, what works for you, we would love to hear it.
Absolutely.
Some of you guys, I'm sure, are journaling pros. So let us have the tips. I see
people with so much journaling, and I'm like, how do you do it? And it's like a muscle. You just got to practice it. And once you do it, you realize how therapeutic it is, and you couldn't live your life without it.
Exactly.
So
share those tips and tricks, because we can use them.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you guys all for being here again. We love sharing this time with you week by week, and we love to see you guys coming back every week. We really appreciate the support.
Absolutely. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. Don't forget to bookmark our site, she'safullonmonet.com. and subscribe to our newsletter. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you're enjoying this podcast, it helps us a lot if you can follow, rate, and review. See y'all next week.